Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. My guest today is Stacy Slone, originally from Pennsylvania. She's been in the North Carolina real estate for over 20 years, has served for the 2 top producers in the area, mother of a 13-year-old, lover of animals and good barbecue, has been with Weston Woodall for the majority of her career, finds it easy to stay with them because of their loyalty, their service, their work environment, their customer-first approach. If you need any real estate needs, please Google Weston Woodall in Durham, North Carolina. Make sure you ask for Stacy Slone. Stacy, thanks for being here. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
How's the back? A little bit better?
It is better.
Okay, yeah. That's very good to hear.
Learning experience on that.
Yeah.
But, hey, I'm 52 and I haven't had back issues until now, so
there you go.
I'll take it.
Start strengthening it up, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
We'll just dive right in. Real estate, North Carolina, 20 years. I mean, how does one start in the real estate world?
Well, so I used to work in building construction. So I worked at Carolina Builders, which it's not that anymore, but when I was there for about 6 years, and I did not want to keep watching the clock, so I decided to venture out, and I became a manager of a real estate company that worked out of a farmhouse, which I thought was pretty cool. And it was for RE/MAX, and had 2 bosses, and then I had 2 agents that I would oversee. And I watched how they just enjoyed what they were doing. And so I got my license and decided to sell, and the rest is history.
So manager, were you like office manager, reception kind of thing, or were you like the overseer of the people working below you, kind of more like a boss?
Yep, office manager jack of all trades. I had to do everything all the way to, there were 2 farm cats that I had to take care of. All the decorating. It was a lot. I loved it. I actually really enjoyed it. But then when they built out and we were done, the company decided to go another direction in Greensboro, and I wasn't going to move to Greensboro or do anything in Greensboro. So,
'cause you're from Durham?
Yeah. Well, I've been here since, 90, so I've been here a long time.
So a Durhamite enough that you wanted to stay.
Yeah, and my family was here, so I wasn't going anywhere. I mean, jobs are great, but that one wasn't enough to take me somewhere.
Yeah, and for those who aren't familiar with, North Carolina, Greensboro is a solid hour drive.
It is, yeah. And it was just not something that I decided not to do it, but I got my license and went to one of the local companies and started that way. And yeah, I'm glad I made that decision.
In regards to getting your license, do you talk to the existing realtors that you're overseeing and say, hey, can you lend me the book? Is there a book?
There's
you study?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
So my book was in 98. A lot has changed. I've heard a lot has changed. So
in regards to how you become a realtor.
Yep. Right. You have to do a lot more hours. And I'm glad, because when we got our license, yes, we had to know a lot, but the test wasn't that hard, or at least it seemed pretty easy. And then you just start selling real estate. And I will never forget the instructor that I had said, the first night we were in class, because I took night classes because I was working in the day.
Like a test prep kind of class?
No, you have to take classes to actually then go to get your state license.
Oh, so you can't just I can't wake up tomorrow and just say, I'm going to take the test.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So you have, I think it took me 3 months because it was part-time because I was doing it at night. But the first thing he said was, everything that you learn in this class will never be used in the real estate world. So if I go to sell anything that, what is it? When the city can take your,
like a foreclosure?
I can't remember the name of it. But anyhow, so many things that they taught us, I've still never done. So
the similarities are weirdly, shockingly close to my experiences as a general contractor, both in the differences over time. I mean, the person that I first started working for in California, he was 70 and, still swinging a hammer, better than me, I might add.
Wow.
Guy woke up at 4 and worked on a Bowflex every day.
Oh my gosh. Impressed? Okay.
Oh, very impressed. Yeah. He did not have the back issues. Yeah.
He's Chuck, who's the one that does the Bowflex, and he's old now.
Oh, I don't even know his name.
Yeah.
But I know who you're talking about from TV.
Yeah.
But he told me, when he was my age, he walked into some government building, and basically if you wrote a $50 check, you got a contractor's license. End of story.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I didn't have to take a class that you had to. I elected to take a test prep class, but that guy literally said the exact same thing. He said, all of you guys are going to struggle because you've been working in the industry, and everything you use on the job site is not even close to what I have to teach you from this book so that you pass this test, which doesn't really teach you how to build stuff. Yeah. And so it was like, I was like, well, why are we learning all this? And he was like, I can't answer that. I'm just the one who's going to help you prep for the test. Sorry if you guys can hear my dog. He's just very excited, wagging his tail. So the similarities are shocking, and I believe the same organization monitors both our tests.
Probably.
Yeah. You have to go to that building in Raleigh with that moderator lady who's not very nice. I mean, maybe you don't know her. It's been some years, but my lady was not nice, and I actually drove to Fayetteville to go to a different lady.
Well, I went to Durham Tech, and I had to have a number 2 pencil, and I had to make sure that my lines were in the circle. And if it wasn't, and I even got the answer correct, you still miss it.
Mine was on a computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Just touch screen.
Now
boom,
everything's computer. Yeah. It's been like that for years, but I'll never forget, I was more nervous about getting the lines in, making sure I had it right.
Like old school Scantron, like SAT style.
And then we had to wait 2 weeks to find out if we passed.
I found out I failed immediately the first time. They were
fail. How it is now.
Right on the screen. Yep. Oh, back to the
That's
books.
what they say.
Yeah.
They say you immediately know.
Yeah.
And I have no idea why they made us wait.
And it's so funny too, because I'm going into my exam, and I've got this giant, I mean, it's 3 inches thick, this code book you're allowed to bring in, and this law book you're allowed to bring in, and you're not allowed to, those are I think one other book. It's been, over 5 years since I've taken that exam, but you get to bring in stuff.
For the
You get
testing?
Yeah, you get to bring
Wow.
you get to look up in the code book. You can't, you
Wow.
get to bring a calculator, a code book,
Mhm.
the law code book, and then there's like an addendum code book just for North Carolina versus like the whole country. But then there's this lady sitting next to me, and she's taken in the same testing room at the same time. She's taking her real estate. Like she walks in there with nothing. She needs no equipment, no books, no,
No,
walks in, takes her
no.
test in a third the amount of time because it must be a shorter test, and walks out, no big deal. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
that's convenient. I'm
Wow.
just in testing mode during this time of my
Yeah.
life, and this is the second time I've done it, and I'm just frustrated, all these books, and then you
Yeah.
got to bring a
Yeah.
bag of books, but you can't bring your phone even if it's off, and all this hoopla because somebody figured out how to cheat, so then they figure out a rule to make it harder, and all this, that, and the third.
Yeah. But you guys have a lot of codes and things
Oh,
that
so many codes. Oh, yeah.
exactly, probably thousands that we don't have to really deal with.
No.
You
No.
know, yeah, they won't let us
Yeah.
bring anything
Well,
in.
that's why you get to bring in the book. And honestly, even with the book, it's
I'm
still
sure it's
not easy
hard.
because you have a time frame,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you have to spend a lot of time before the test knowing how just to look stuff up
Yeah.
in the code book. Like you might know a term. Let's, for example, use rot, like dry rot or some rotted part. So you might think, okay, I'll go to R and look up rot. Doesn't exist. So you've got to know that the term
It's dry rot
is
or
decay,
decay.
because it's
Oh,
decaying away,
right.
which is like, yes, that is the correct word, but
Right.
not something that we're really using in the field. When
Yeah.
we find something rotten, we go, oh, that's rotten. Got to rip that out and
Yeah.
replace it. You don't go,
Yeah.
oh, that wood is decaying. Like, who talks like
Yeah.
that? But you've got to know that so
Right.
that you can go to D, decay, and flip to the other side of the book and find it. And all that takes time, and it's a timed
Yeah.
test.
Yeah.
So even having the resources in the test didn't really guarantee anything. And then also, it's 50-50 whether you even get a question on code. I mean, you could get you won't get none, but you could get a low amount of code lookup questions and a high amount of math questions. And, what if you're bad at math, or you're like me and you really got to write out the problem? I'll get you the answer. I just need a couple extra minutes.
Yeah.
Math's a strong suit. I'm just not fast. When you have a timed exam, that
Right.
anxiety, of course, you just start building all that up. But it is interesting, the similarities of the changes of even the test and the licensing process.
Mm-hmm.
So you get your license, you obviously take this night class you mentioned, then you pass the exam and you're licensed real estate. Do you have to do any continuing education to be a realtor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Every year we have 8 hours.
Same here. Yeah.
And then we have an additional 4 for ethics because I'm a realtor. So there's some people that are just agents.
Okay, so explain the distinction for people like me who don't know what you just said.
Yep. So a realtor means you are with an association. So I'm with the Durham Realtors Association. You can be with Wake. You can be with the Triad up in Greensboro, Burlington. And basically what that means is we have one more standard. We're higher up with our ethics. Ethics is the big one. So, but we're also, we do RPAC, which sponsors a lot of realtor functions that we need as realtors to continue to move forward.
What is RPAC?
It's a, so
It's like an acronym.
yeah, well, it is, but I'm trying to think of what it is at the moment. But bottom line is, I support it because every year we have the newest innovative things that we need to know in our real estate world to be a better realtor.
So this is realtors for realtors by realtor, like a realty convention kind of situation.
Yeah,
not so much like real estate, not realtors and clients.
It helps with being able to provide for continuing education for the teachers, because you got a lot of realtors out in North Carolina. So each state has their own, and I support it 100%. And I've been in it since Probably 2008, maybe 7, 8, and it has is very valuable to have.
And do you get into it? Do you get like invited? Do you just write a check? Do you have to be a certain like
We write a
quality
check every
level?
year. Yep. And then I go to all the functions if I'm available. I mean, a lot of
Gotcha.
times I'm working, so I don't go. But I still like to know that it's there if
But
I
just to
want to
back
do
up a
it.
little bit, you mentioned that there's kind of two levels. You can be an agent or you
Yep.
can be a realtor.
Yep. So
So
remember, as an agent,
you work for a realtor.
no, as an agent, you just don't have the higher standards of the ethical part. So if we both get in trouble, okay, if I did something that was unethical and they did something that was unethical, you go to the board. So something happens
Right.
and someone's calling you out on something. Our standards are higher and we could actually get in trouble more.
So not to like boil it down to a simpler explanation, but like they can almost kind of plead ignorance and plead the fifth a little bit, whereas you're
Yeah.
like, well, I've been trained in a higher level of
Because
ethics.
we
I
take
should have
those
known better.
classes. Yeah.
So
They
you
don't
can
take the
punish me
classes.
more is basically
Mm-hmm.
what the governing body of realtors
Yeah.
will kind of take that stance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Well, but the bigger thing that I like people to know is that I take it every 2 years, 4 hours every 2 years. Plus, we can read all the articles that they have. But I want that buyer or seller to know that I'm on the higher standard. Like, I'm not going to do something unethical, especially when I'm put to such high standards with having the name realtor. Not all
right.
of us can say we are a realtor.
When did you when did you like make the jump from agent to realtor?
Back in 2007, I think.
Okay. And
Can't
was there
remember.
like
It
a
might have
life
been
event
7.
that maybe occurred? Did you almost
No,
get in trouble for doing something
nope,
by
nope,
accident?
nope. It was just back then. It's kind of funny because when you go into real estate, you can either make it or you fail,
Right.
and you either starve or you're okay. And there's highs and lows. And I think right before that, um, I was going through a time where it was kind of low with what I was doing, and so I didn't look at it as being as important. Then I start really selling real estate and realizing this is something I want to have as a designation, So, and then I started looking into it a little bit more and believed in it enough to where I was like, yeah, I need to be doing this. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And so are there so you mentioned that there's like a governing body that kind of like watches over real estate agents and realtors. And so like and maybe you don't know because you're not presumably on the board of this or whatever, but why aren't these standards and practices just thus the standard for
Across the
anybody who's in
board.
real estate? I mean, if general contractors don't have like different levels of ethical, you screw up and you really did something unethical, they're going to take you to the board, and it doesn't matter if you have been
Right,
licensed for a day or 40 years. You're going to get, you're going
right.
to get the same process. I haven't ever gone through it because I'm also an ethical person, at least in my
Right. I
business.
mean, if you know you're doing right, everything's good,
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other thing to being a realtor, like I said, it's not just the ethical part of it. It is being a part of an organization. And that's where for years I was on. So when I first joined, I we used to have first time home buyer uh huge event over at South Point. I was on that committee for a few years and I enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. And it was just being a part of something. And it was all for first time home buyers. And we had seminars and they would have a bazillion questions and we were there to answer. And um, so I think when I say that they could get something not as uh, depends on what you've done. I don't know. I mean, let me just tell you, there are a lot of agents out there and realtors that they're not the most honest and ethical.
Yeah.
But some of them on the realtor side just have the money to pay for the dues and everything that you do have to pay when you're in that organization.
Oh, so some people are straight up just paying to be in the organization, to put it on their resume classification, and they're not changing their ethical beliefs or moral
I
beliefs.
hope that's not the case, but we have
Probably is at least one guy. There's got to be somebody.
Well, we have a bulletin, comes out every month, and it says disciplinary actions. And if I did something wrong, it's out there for the public to see.
Gotcha.
And I don't want to be in that book ever, but I read them. I definitely read to see.
Have you have you read that book and been like, oh my God, I know Joe. Why did he do that?
Yeah.
Has it happened?
Few times.
Few times.
But then I know a lot of realtors too.
That's true. I mean, the network, I'm assuming, only gets bigger.
Yeah, some would be just shocking. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then they'll tell you what they did unless it's really bad and they revoked their license and yanked it from them. Then they won't tell us what it was.
Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah.
With people you know, like directly?
Yeah.
And you just see license revoked and you've got to call them and be like, what did you do?
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel bad. I had one realtor friend that it was a bad mistake, and she didn't lose her license. They didn't lose their license, but they were suspended for 6 months, and even 6 months to me, that's my livelihood.
Oh,
if
yeah.
I can't do real estate for 6 months,
If you don't have a side hustle or even another job,
yeah.
because there are, obviously there are plenty of people that real estate is their side hustle. You are not those people. This is your everyday, all day. I mean, I'd like to say it's 9 to 5, but it's really 24 hours a day.
It's a lot. But yeah, it is definitely, you got to be careful, but you have to be careful with your license too. I think
absolutely.
Anyone that carries a license for whatever they're doing, you have to think you're on a higher standard. You have to.
Yeah.
How some people do it, I will tell you that the biggest thing I see that people mess up with is trust accounts. They use the money when they shouldn't use the money.
Oh, okay.
They use it for their personal, and they think, oh, well, when I close on that transaction, I'll just put the money back. That's not how it works. You actually have to show, and the audits will come in unannounced and go through your books, and that's the number one thing I see.
It's funny. I never really would have thought that you would obviously people pass away and trusts inherit property, and then you get brought in to sell property and whatever the case may be. But I just kind of didn't really think that level of financial info would really be like relevant on the realty side, but obviously I was wrong.
You know how you go to buy a house and you have to put up earnest money?
Well, let's save that because we're gonna jump into that for some first time home buyers.
Yeah.
But before we get into there, so mid 2000s you jump from agent to realtor. Is that about the time you find Weston Woodall?
So no, I'm trying to think of the timeline. That's really bad. I can't think, because remember I worked for 2 top producers, which that was the other reason why I didn't really go for my realtor designation, because I was kind of behind the scenes. I was working for them.
Right. You're working for a company that has a realtor as their
I was
head turner or whatever.
At that time, I wanted to learn all the ins and outs, and I also was selling, but not like a great amount. But the first realtor that I worked with, she was all about the listings. She did over $50 million a year. So she kept me busy and taught me everything about listing a house. And
I think you were working for her when we met, because I don't think you were with Weston Woodall yet.
No, that was someone different.
Well, that was even a third party. Gotcha.
But she was with the same company of that first person that I worked with.
Kind of broke off, started
That's
her own
how
thing.
I met her.
Gotcha.
Phyllis was who I was with when.
Shout out Phyllis. I don't
on.
know your last name, but good for you.
Well, Phyllis Brown, but she passed away.
Oh,
So,
R.I.P.
But Amy was my first person, and she taught me everything. And then I went to another top producer, and the thing about real estate is it is 24/7. And when I first got in the business, I guess I wasn't used to that. I didn't 100% like you got to be on call on the weekends and at night and all that. And so I was with her when it was me realizing that, boy, this is a 24/7. I don't know if I want to do this all the time kind of feeling. I did get out of that, and now I don't care. Now every time I go out, it's like I don't even look at the clock. I just doesn't matter. But there was a time where I did not like that, and I wanted my free time. I wanted my personal time, and um, yeah. So I went through a transition. I think we all do. I
Yeah.
mean, and that was when I was in my early 30s. So, you kind of find yourself, and then I found myself, and I went to Weston Woodall, and yeah, it was great. So,
And as I as I mentioned in the intro, I mean, you love working for them. I mean, you seem
sure, yeah.
very happy. They're
Mhm.
buttoned up. Their offices are great. I mean, even when they moved, their
Mhm.
new office is great.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep. But
yeah,
it isn't just they know what they're doing, but it's also everything that they do is on the up and up. There's no me feeling, okay, are they doing things the right way? They are looking out for everyone's interest, and I like that.
yeah.
I mean, I
And
can feel it.
as an outsider, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like every time I go there, there aren't more employees, but there's more work. Like they're always growing in a good
Yeah.
way, but not
Mhm.
just hiring willy nilly. Not that they're like
Right.
not hiring, but they take some time to really
Yeah.
grow and make sure they can take on a new person before they bring in a person and make
Yeah.
sure that there's a good fit. Like the culture is it's quality. I love the barn doors too, at
Oh
least in
yeah.
the
Oh
old
yeah. It
office
was all everything was on the up and up.
yeah,
And a lot of the like wood was from downtown old historic
that got
buildings and
reclaimed. Yeah,
yeah.
Durham loves
Thought that was
that.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's cool.
Durham's big on the reclaim. That's probably
Yeah.
what I mean, among other things, but subconsciously that drew me here,
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so moving a little bit, your recap's amazing. I love that you can remember it all. It's quite a long time you've been in realty,
I'm
real estate,
trying.
realty. So what's the term
Real
there?
estate.
Real
Yeah.
estate. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so talking now about just different types of real estate. Primarily, you're on the residential side. Primarily, you're
Yeah.
selling and buying for people single family homes. But for those who may not know, there's a lot of different types of homes and a lot of different types to live.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not renting and you want to buy, you don't need a single family standalone home. And I mean, if we're going to go kind of size and maintenance low and then up, I mean, we could start with obviously you don't buy an apartment, but you buy a condo,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically an apartment,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
got pretty much all your exterior stuff is taken care of by an HOA or a homeowners
Right.
association.
Mm-hmm.
Just for listeners, homeowner association, you pay a nameless, faceless person a bunch of money, usually a lot of money, and they mow the tiniest little patch of grass and make sure that there's fresh flowers at the front door of your condo. And if something breaks, they fix it. But for the most part, it seems like highway robbery to me.
Depends. I guess it depends. I think that it's hard to see higher fees on new buildings because nothing's falling apart for
Right.
however many years,
Right.
and that part is I struggle with. But the older townhomes or condos, I can see where there's a need for that buildup of however financially, hopefully they're secure enough to fix those things that need to be
That's
done.
actually a rather intelligent way of looking at it, because as you know, things start to decay,
Yeah, that's
call
right.
back,
Uh huh.
full circle, like the HVAC or windows or the roofing, they're going to need a lot more than their monthly HOA. They're going to need to be having saved that HOA,
Right.
the organization that is in charge of the building.
Right.
It's thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to an apartment building's roof. I mean, that's a massive project that they've needed
Absolutely.
several years of HOA saved up. So I guess it makes a little bit more sense with an older but again, yeah, like you mentioned, a brand new building with an insanely high HOA for one rose bush out the front door. I
Yeah.
mean, what are we
Yeah.
doing here?
Some
Who's
common
pocketing
area.
that? Yeah.
Right. Even the parking lot is perfect because it's brand new,
Right.
So I walk into these townhomes that I sell and they'll say, oh, it's $175 a month. And I'm just thinking,
For
not
what?
only is it 175 a month, but they have the right to increase it. So by the time something does need to be fixed, it's probably up there 200. I don't know, but um let's just hope it's a good HOA. That's the other thing. This is really important. When you are buying a townhome or a condo or even a single family and you have an HOA, check the financials of them. Make sure there is money in the HOA because sometimes they have blown it on something. You don't even know it as the homeowner.
And is that
And
public record that you could
no,
find
you
that?
have to actually ask for it.
You have to ask. So, if you put some money down and you're waiting your, 30-day due diligence period, you could then reach out to that HOA and be
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not going to close and actually go through with this purchase until you give me. Do they have to provide that information?
They're supposed to,
Okay.
yeah. But I wouldn't even put up due diligence at that time. I would ask for the financials prior to putting an offer in
Okay.
to make sure. It just depends. I mean, some condos and townhomes, they're in decent shape, and I'm not really worried about it. But
Especially like you said, if it's real new.
yeah, but I've got one that I'm dealing with right now. It is wood rot all around this place, and the
Wood decay.
wood decay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, wood decay. I should have used that word. Um,
Just
and
wait. After today, you'll never say
I
rot again.
know,
You'll
now
be like,
I'll
well,
probably
that's
say
decaying.
decay.
We need to fix that. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Um, but they will not support the financials. We still haven't seen them, and no offers. I mean, and the agent said, well, they're saying that they're going to do the work, and that's fine. But what happens down the road when something else needs to be done and they don't have the money, because it does happen. They go belly up all the time.
And then they
So,
just don't fix it, or they increase the HOA an absurd amount to get the money
yeah.
immediately to fix it. Either way, it's not good for you as somebody
No,
who's living there.
no, they won't get the money to fix it. They just won't fix it.
They just won't fix it.
And then you're in trouble.
Well,
Yeah.
then isn't that like, and I mean, in my head, I'm like, well, why am I paying the HOA? Isn't that like lawsuitable?
I don't know. I mean, I've never gone to
If
that
I give
extent.
you 5 years worth of HOA monthly payments and then my roof leaks and your job is to fix it, I want my roof fixed. And if you
Right.
don't fix it, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was about to say I'm going to get it fixed and send you a bill, but then you're not going to get the bill paid. And then what are you going to
No.
fight in court for collections or something? I mean, so that's just,
It's a little,
it's the start of a horror story, at
Yeah.
least in the homeowner
Yeah.
umbrella.
It can be complicated.
Yeah.
But here is something else people don't realize. So now you're a homeowner and you're living in this townhome community and it's $145 a month and you've gotten behind on your dues within a couple months, let's just say. They could put a lien on your property
For the HOA.
and they can actually take your property from you. So let's say you owe, I'm just going to give an example, $700. I don't know how much it is.
Right, sure.
Okay, because you've now gone behind 6 months.
Yeah.
They put a lien and they actually put a court date and they can seize your property.
Even if hypothetically you bought the home in cash and don't have a mortgage, they could still like go after you for $700.
There will still be a lien on the property. However, here's the thing. When you have a mortgage, the bank is here. So let's say the bank's going to foreclose on you. The HOA gets paid first.
Right.
HOA is superior above your mortgage. That is what blows my mind.
That is very strange.
Oh, if anyone ever could read up on it, the things that you would find out is incredible. I mean, I can't even believe some people have lost their homes within under $1,000. So it's like tax foreclosures.
I've never heard of anything like that, but I have a sister who lives in a condo in Atlanta, and not that she has like anything close to horror story level events, but she does. I've come to visit, and obviously I'm handy, and she's like, "Can you bring your drill? I need this, that, and the third." Sure, whatever. But then we're young and dumb and on a vacation. Basically, I'm visiting for a weekend, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, "Oh, I could do that right now." And she's like, "Well, that's going to be too loud." I'm like, "Too loud for a roommate you don't have?" She's like, "No, you don't understand. Like, you can't do that kind of work in this building due to the HOA past like 4:30 in the afternoon." And my face dropped like she was speaking Klingon. I was like, "What did you just say? This is America. If I want to put your TV on the wall with my drill, I'm putting your TV on the wall with my drill right now." And I actually remember like doing it. Her anxiety level went through the roof because it is loud. Some lag bolts for a hanging
Yeah.
TV into studs, and I kind of feel like a little bit of a jerk because I feel like she got like a letter from
could
probably
have.
her neighbor complained, and then the
Yep.
HOA sent her a letter like, hey, a reminder. She didn't get in trouble, but it was like a reminder letter like, hey, don't do anything after 4:30 that's this loud or whatever. And I think she, with an LOL, sent it to me in a text, and I was like, wow, you need a new place to live.
Yeah.
Like that was my
Yeah.
response. I wasn't even sorry. I was like, you need a new place to live. And then my brother, who you obviously know, and sold him his gorgeous starter house in Sunningdale. They had an HOA, but it was relatively low, and it really
Oh yeah.
just did like the entrance sign, gardens, lights, and their HOA was really more rules for keeping your lawn a certain length because they just wanted like the neighborhood to look good. And don't get me wrong, this is all under the don't tread on me, absolutely absurd in my book.
Yeah.
But as far as levels of HOA, it was relatively harmless.
Mild.
It was
Yeah.
pretty low. The
Yeah.
flowers were actually very beautiful at their entranceway, and everybody's lawn was kept really nice. So when you drove through, it did look good. So obviously there are levels to everything,
Yep. Yep.
so you could get some really, and I guess I should mention that's single family home, not a condo, townhome
exactly.
situation.
Yeah.
So the HOA
They're
would
more
never be in
strict.
charge of fixing their roof. That's
Right.
on you. So
Yeah.
there's, if you're an HOA townhome manager and you have to one day think about replacing $40,000 of roof, you have to think a little bit differently, I guess, about your HOA.
Yep. Absolutely.
But obviously, like for anybody looking to get out of the rental game and into the purchase game, a townhome or condo could be flawless for your needs. I mean, we are not in a position to judge anybody of what they're buying. I don't like HOA, but that doesn't mean I've got any right to tell anybody, don't buy that, it has an HOA. I'm like, somebody doesn't, I don't want to mow. I want somebody to mow it. I'm happy to pay $100 a month and not worry about my air conditioner. I mean, that's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Some people are not outside people. They don't want to have to do anything, or they're older. They don't want to go out into the yard and cut the grass.
They don't need a grill. They don't need a balcony.
They don't
care.
Anything.
Yeah.
So there's convenience to it, of course. You just want a good one. You want one that they're accountable, that they're there, but yeah, I've definitely had people say, do not even send me one house or townhome or anything if it has an HOA.
I mean, I did that to you when you were looking for houses. I was like, just don't do it.
No restrictions. They do not want any restrictions. And I get it, but townhomes, you're always going to have a restriction. But
and that leads a nice segue into townhomes as kind of a topic above condo, because we would basically say condo is an apartment. You're just buying it. You could have people below you, people above you, left, right, all directions.
Right.
Whereas a townhome, more than not, it's a 2-story. You have no one above, and you have people left and right.
For a townhome.
For a townhome.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
so,
they're either ranch or want 2-story. Yeah.
So you've got, slightly more space, potential for, the babyest size of grass backyard, but similar living situation in terms of you're going to hear people, you're going to have an HOA.
Yeah.
And you're going to be, it's packed, it's tight. It's that type of situation. And
there's no privacy.
There's no
so
privacy.
Do
townhomes exist without an HOA?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
And there are some that are very low numbers, but they still charge you, and there's nothing there. No pool, no amenities, no nothing.
But at least they mow.
They mow,
the lawn.
and the common areas. So,
and the common area, right. Yeah. Gotcha. And then I guess going up from townhome, is there a tweener step between townhome and single family home? Or we're really, at that point, we're building structures that aren't attached? I guess dual family homes.
I mean, there's cluster homes where they're kind of connected, but they're not connected.
Right.
They have a breezeway between each one.
Gotcha.
That's really not a whole lot different than a townhome
to
me, except they do have a little more land attached to their property.
Gotcha.
And maybe a little more privacy because they don't have the the shared wall.
Yeah, so the noise transfer is a little less.
Is less, yeah.
Which is a big
Yeah.
deal. I mean, nowadays
is.
everybody's blasting music, TV, whatever, or even just unfortunately me, my voice carries. I can't control it.
Oh,
My regular voice just carries. My whisper is like, you're not. Everybody can hear that. You're not whispering. So I just don't say anything. I don't want everybody to hear.
Well, I owned a townhome. I've lived in my house now for about 4 years, but when I lived in a townhome, you definitely learn what you like and don't like. And I was in a 2016 townhome where they had to have the firewall,
Right.
which did help.
Right.
So I didn't hear my neighbor that much, and she never heard me. And but the difference is I walked out and one of my neighbors across the street hated me for whatever reason. They hated me. And he was just always so like you can't pick who's going to live around you versus at a house. Now I have privacy, and even if I had bad neighbors, it wouldn't be as bad as that person I had to see every day when I came outside.
It's hard to avoid the guy across the street in a townhome community who's like giving you the stink eye every time you walk. Whereas, if you've got, definitely, absolutely.
So you have to think about that when you are purchasing. Just make sure you're okay with possibly no privacy. Possibly being able to hear the people if it was built in 1985, because they didn't have those codes back then.
Yeah, the code did change. And for those who have no idea what we're talking about, the firewall, if you can't deduce what it may mean, it is basically a wall that is not impossible to burn through, but is going to take infinitely longer for the fire to burn through. So if a fire starts in my townhome, I don't necessarily kill the person next door before everybody can get out and the fire department can get there. So there's certain non-combustible materials that are used in that shared wall, and that is I don't want to guess how recent, but within the last 5 or 10 years that fire code is
2016, I think.
2016. Okay, so it's actually very recent. Yeah. And that's why you got to bring the code book to my exam, because it changes every year.
Right.
So
your codes change all the time.
I mean, if I memorized that code book this year, it would almost be garbage in 3 years.
Yeah.
And so I now don't even pick it up. Now I just go online and I'll Google the same code I know and see if it changed. Because it might not even change, but there might be an addendum, or like this code is still fine, but in the event you're doing this exact thing, but in this way, you have to do this, like I built Jeremy's house and we had no idea code had changed when we framed the house. The framer didn't even know. And it was, when you're framing a window, where the window is, there's no stud. So you need a header above it. And for every stud you miss in that window bay, you have to put an extra king stud on the side.
Oh, wow.
And Jeremy had some window bays that were 8 feet long.
Oh,
I mean, some
goodness.
massive windows.
Wow.
I mean, the finished product is stunning. Don't get me wrong. I have no regrets, but we just have no idea. And all of a sudden we're like, well, there's not even room to, force in 4 more studs on each side, and it's like, and it's some shear code with wind resistant and all. And I was like, well, we're not going to like argue against a structural code thing.
Yeah,
but at the same time, we're both kind of scratching our heads like, this is a big thing to be, sub addendum 4 Q6. Like it should be at the top of the framing windows thing, but that's not how they do that.
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting.
It was not a fun 3 days when we got that failed inspection and we were like, why? And then we had to figure it out. But I mean, obviously this is years ago and everything's fine.
Yeah.
But that was, just another way that those codes, they sneak up on you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I guess single family, at least in the residential realm, single family's the top. I guess you could talk about multifamily, but they're kind of they're constructed the same way and they're sold and bought the same way. Mm-hmm. So this really
everything's kind of the same. So for us, as trying to help you, you need to give us the criteria. Do you want a townhome? Do you want, and I always ask people because they're like, we're looking for a single family, whatever. And then I'll say, so townhomes are out. Well, no, we like townhomes too, so the people that want the townhome and the single family, I can't figure that out.
Yeah, a lot of options.
But at the same time, I think they figure it out as they're going and looking. A lot of times, if someone is a yard person, they'll want that single family.
Yeah, especially if you got a pet.
And a pet, too. Yeah. That's a big deal.
I mean, I've lived with my dog in college. We've drove across the country twice. I've lived in an apartment. I've lived in a house. And obviously, as I hear him walk in behind me, he's like, "You're talking about me?"
He knew.
The ability to open my back door to a fenced yard that I don't even have to pay attention to. He can chase the squirrels. It's huge back there. There's grass, there's woods, there's shade, there's water. He scratches on the grate when he wants back in. I mean, it just, I honestly can't even remember the life beforehand because I'm trying to think like, I walked you 3 times a day to the dog at the apartment down the steps. Now my knees hurt. This is 5 years ago. I'm like, I couldn't have done that. Like, what was I thinking? You know? So I could only imagine somebody in my position being like, yeah, let's get a 4th story walk up apartment for our like. There's just no way that I could even begin to fathom. Obviously, I'm not everybody.
But everyone has their own preference and criteria, and it's the same thing. The majority that I get is we've got pets, and we need the fenced yard, or we need a space where we can put the fenced yard. And, we need a first floor master or a bedroom that's going to hold an in-law, or, they always have criteria, which is good. I'm working with a guy now, though, who has no preference at all. None whatsoever.
See, to me, that seems harder.
To me, it would be, because I'm throwing him all this stuff, and I'm sorry, he does have one criteria. He doesn't want it to be older than 2000. So he wants to stay within a 20-year time frame, but that's still a long time.
Because I remember when I gave you my parameters, I mean, hell, they changed even in the month. I mean, I was with somebody, then I became single. I also had, I'm the younger brother of one of your clients, so he's local and can help, and my parents are kind of, they're architects and designers. I mean, they can help. They can see things from another light. Right. So I'm not, your average client, and my parameters were also like, okay, we still looked at 30 plus houses, but the parameters were rather tight.
Yeah, but isn't it funny how you were okay with the fixer-upper? We looked at a lot of stuff that needed fixing up.
Yes.
And then you ended up buying something that really didn't need a whole lot. Now, you created your own home, but it didn't really need a whole lot of fixing up. Yeah. But yet we looked at so many that I thought, oh, my gosh, this is going to be a project. But you were okay with it because, well, you're a
obviously, not everybody's a general contractor.
Exactly. Yeah. So you knew you could do the work to the house. But I just thought it was ironic that you ended up moving into something.
I wanted the fixer-upper. I was like, I think I can save money and put in my own floors and paint, and I'm with my girlfriend at the time who's like, I'll paint, I'll do whatever, right? So we're just like, let's do this together as kind of like almost a relationship step. Right. And then, we don't have to get into my relationship life, but then honestly, I was going to say this house was almost a no because it didn't need any work. But then we look at this house, and I remember coming here, I remember it vividly actually, because it was not on our list. And then you hit me up and said, this just showed up. Yeah. Come look at it. And I remember I'm like, my parents are visiting. We're kind of on like a family vacation. Yeah. And I think my dad was like, well, let's just all go look at it together. And I was like, really? And my mom and dad are like, are you kidding? This is exciting. You're our second son. You're buying a home. I mean, this is, of course. Why would, and I was, to me, I'm like, why would you want to do that? Of course, now, years later, I'm like, why wouldn't they want to do that?
Right. Of course.
And I mean, my mom's in the kitchen. My dad's in the crawl space. My brother's in the attic crawling around before I ever was. And we all kind of look at each other like, okay, what problems? And we all look at each other like, well, no one can find anything wrong.
Yeah.
We're like, well, that's not possible. there's something wrong somewhere. And then I remember we came back the next day and did the same walkthrough again. We were like, we still can't find anything wrong.
Right.
And then we went in 5 over and got it. And my dad was like, we'll give you the 5 over. You don't want to lose that house. It's too perfect for just like what it is, where it is, your life
guys
status.
Really liked the backyard too. The backyard was nice. And standing out on that deck, because I remember John saying, you got to get him this house. You got to get him this house.
He also he saw the potential, which I'm not going to do because of different life events, but he saw the double height garage and went, there's a room to be built.
Yeah,
he went, there's a whole,
he did say that.
He's like, there's 250 square feet. You just need heat, air, and a floor. I was like, well, that's true. Of course, I don't have a music room or a kid or whatever he thought I was going to put there, but
but still it's there. So it's nice. Yeah. I forgot he did.
But that's also comes into, not everybody has the unique vision that I share with my dad and my mom, especially, that we can look at a house full of trash and see through the trash. We can look we can look through the floor. We can look through the hump. We can look through the rot, and we can see the potential. And also we just, this is what we do. So we know the work, we look at a rotten foundation and go, well, I've got my foundation guys do this all day. This is not, to somebody who has no idea what they're doing. That is like, well, do you want to open the 7th circle of hell or not? And it's like, of course they don't. Yeah.
Right.
So if you are, just to morph a little bit to more of a first-time home buyer discussion, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but to me, the first thing that I would think about for first-time home buyers would be financials. You've got to know what kind of mortgage you can get approved for. You've got to know what kind of budget you can then work in.
Right.
You like all of those things, not necessarily working with a realtor. Do you have like mortgage people that you like put first-time home buyers in touch with?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got one lender and she's wonderful. She deals just with first-time home buyers. It's also kind of like the credit union. I always ask people, are you a member of the state employees credit union? Because they do 100% financing. You could have money to put down, but to know you have your options and still have the same interest rate is very valuable for someone that only has a little bit to put down. Or if they don't have anything to put down. But in this day and time, sometimes the mortgage is cheaper than the rent. So, they go and think, well, this is a smart move. But I've got one girl and she's got a fantastic program for first-time home buyers. And it has a lot of incentives. And it also makes it to where they don't have to put a whole lot down to be able to afford a house.
Because back in the day, the number was always thrown out. Like, you got to throw 20% down, 20%, 20%, 20%. And I believe I've heard that is still a decent number, obviously nowhere near required. But and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you put down less than 20%, don't you have to get another insurance beyond your homeowner's insurance?
Yeah, it's your premium mortgage insurance.
Insurance.
And so after you've paid off 20% of the loan, you can knock that off.
Okay.
So a lot of people are putting down 5 to 10%. So they know they still have another a certain amount. You always have to watch it too, because the bank will not call you and say, hey, congratulations, you've made it to your 20% pay down, and now you don't have to pay that insurance. Nope, they will collect it until
all day.
Forever. They will always collect it until you say, hey, I think I'm 20% in now.
I'm sorry. Did you just say an insurance person was not honest and cool?
Well,
I'm so shocked.
I'm just saying they will not call you. You have got to let them know that, And then they'll wipe it, and then it's done. They'll see that it's 20% down that you have now, and that will not be in your payment. And I've seen people, the payment's $150, $182. That's a lot when you think of a whole year.
Right.
You know, and there are some people that they're like, we had no idea, and we've been paying that for years and years and years, and
They
it's
just thought it
sad.
was their mortgage
It's
payment.
sad. Well, no, no one let them know.
Oh, they just didn't know that they could stop.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The
gotcha.
bank should really have some sort of stipulation.
It should be on auto. I mean,
It
to me, that's
there should be a
borderline
bill
theft.
that's
Yeah.
signed saying the bank has to tell you when you've put 20% down,
Right.
when you're now 20%.
Because the insurance company's just going to go, well, we thought you wanted this extra insurance and you kept paying it, so we kept collecting
to
it.
let you know.
Right. Yeah. It's
your responsibility.
It's like when you start a free subscription and they don't tell you that the 3-month ended, and you
Yeah.
go, why am I paying
Yeah.
$11.99 for Apple TV or whatever it might be
Man,
for 8
I
months?
hate those 7-day free trial things because I always get sucked in because I won't remember.
So I'm so OCD that if I'm like, okay, I want to watch this show on this streaming and it's got a 7-day, I'll click it and then I'll immediately open my calendar and go to 6 days and put cancel this subscription.
Yeah,
Because
I need to do
that's
that.
me. That's just how I operate. But I'm also the type of guy who, when people are like, a new episode comes out on Sunday, and I'm like, I have a day 8 weeks from now where I'm going to binge that when it's all out because I don't want to wait every week. So just let me do my thing.
But if you like what it is for 7 days, do you want to get rid of it? See, that's my hardship. I have a problem. If I now look at it and say, boy, I really like this, I'm not going to want to give it up. And then
That's true.
I'll
Yeah.
buy it. I'll just pay for it every
See, we're
month.
on different. It's circumstantial. See, in my example, there's a show that's done, and I want to binge it, and it's just
Yeah.
only available on make something up Peacock. So I'm like, let me do
Yeah.
the 7-day free trial, and I'll spend
Yeah.
Saturday binging some show, and then I'll cancel it, and I don't need it anymore. But obviously, if you start a trial and the show is in the middle of, or season 2 comes out, it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do for Ted Lasso season 3 when it comes out on Apple TV. I'm probably just gonna have to pay for it for a couple months and then cancel it because I need to watch that. That is the
my
funniest
gosh.
show
I haven't
ever.
seen that.
Okay.
But
Well, I could do a whole podcast on shows
Yeah.
I would recommend.
Yeah.
We'll
I
save
was going
that.
to say, you of all people could do a whole podcast on.
I'm a screen
movies
junkie.
and-
It's
yeah,
true. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a
I
disease.
love my movies. I definitely love them. But I know you're one of just a few people that I know that's like, you could talk about it.
I
for
mean, that's usually
days.
most of our Remember when we were deep into Shameless? I mean, that
yeah.
we would go back and forth. Did you see? I haven't seen it yet. I'm watching it tonight.
Don't
say anything.
Yeah.
But I love him. No, she's so cool. Don't. Yeah.
Oh, Shameless was awesome.
I know. Shameless was great. But
Jeez.
bringing
Yeah.
it back. Bringing it back.
Bringing it back.
So first time home buyers, it sounds like from what we've been saying that they don't think about the mortgage necessarily first. They might contact somebody like you, and then you have to say, well, before I start showing you a $500,000 house, do you have $500,000? Go talk to this lender and let's
Right.
see what's up.
Yeah. The lender is the first place to go. So
Right.
if anyone calls me, hey, we're getting ready to start our search. Okay, let me give you the name of a lender, or
Right.
they'll say, we've already talked
Right.
to someone that's perfect. Okay, what can you afford?
Cool.
So
So let's just say, for the sake of this example that isn't real, I'm a first time home buyer, and I called a realtor I wasn't interested in. They told me to go find a lender. Now I've got a lender, and I call you and I go, hey, Stacy, first time home buyer. I have no idea what I'm doing. I've got $300,000. You
Yep.
just make up a number. So,
Yep.
what's the next step, both for you and that you would tell me as the first time home buyer?
Yeah, absolutely. So my biggest thing is, okay, you got to tell me a little bit about you. What's your criteria? What are you looking for? Do you have animals? Do you have kids? Do you have, just the whole, a lot of people are just going to start throwing stuff out. I'm writing things down. Hey, we really only need 2 bedrooms. We could do 3, but we only need 2. Get all the criteria. Location's huge. Okay, so where do you want to be? And then we set up a search, and then now 9 times out of 10, someone's telling me, well, we saw this on Zillow the other day. Perfect. Give me the address. Let's go check it out, and we go from there. So we start shopping, basically.
So there's not really that much, I don't know what other term to use other than prep work. I mean, it sounds like you have to almost sell yourself, because it's not like
you're not, the house is the house. You're not the one who built the house, you know, so you're not like, oh,
Right.
look at this beautiful crown molding I installed, you know, so
I'm not, but the thing I always tell people, like, you can go into a house and see all the there's cracks in the corners, or I'm smelling something that smells like mold, or whatever. People are going in and all they vision is, oh, I'd love to live in this house. Oh, look at their cute decorations that they've done. And I always tell them, okay, look at everything, but I'm looking at the structural part. I'm looking at the paint. I'm
right.
looking at the faucets that have, if you're on well and septic and there's blue, that
Yeah,
means
or
that
that
there's
red ring.
minerals,
Yeah.
there's iron in the
Yeah.
water.
Do the
I'm
windows
I'm looking at
close? Yeah.
those things.
Are there cracks in the corners and the sheetrock?
Exactly.
Are
Yeah.
the window openings and
Yeah.
door openings? Is there a
And
hump in the
yeah,
floor? Yeah.
but I'm looking at all that and then pointing it out to them and then saying, look, you'll have an inspection, but if you love the house. So I let people know that I'm kind of a mini inspector, because I've been in enough houses to see the things that might have an issue. And then if they love it, some houses I'll go in and be like, this is the house. Like, this is awesome. And I get a really good feeling about it, or, and man, so many houses I've had people move in and I told them I knew this was the house for you. Like, I just knew, and they love their house, but
How often do you go, okay, John and Jane Doe, this is the house and it's the house? What percentage are we working on here? 20%?
probably
50%?
probably like maybe 35.
I feel like
But
that's
I
still high.
but I don't tell them that this is the house until they say something.
Oh,
And then
okay,
I'll
okay. See, I thought it
say,
was the other way. I thought you were
because I
like,
don't
let's
wanna-
have a
I don't wanna
pre-walk-in meeting. This is the
persuade.
one.
Well, no, but I always say, gosh, this house looks so nice. Let's see what it looks like, outside of the pictures, because sometimes pictures are deceiving. And you know that.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they put them out there. You get in there. My photographer, by the way, I've never had someone say, dang, we get in there and it looks nothing like your pictures. And there are some that they do.
Yeah.
I see the pictures online and then I walk in and
I mean, it's like house catfishing.
yeah,
And it's strange for housing, because like, what's the point? Unlike catfishing in real life, you could get them out to a dinner and then maybe you get a dinner. But if you go to a house and it looks nothing like what it was in the
You're just gonna
pictures and it's
complain
terrible,
about it.
you're just gonna leave and not
Yeah.
buy it.
and say your pictures suck.
Right.
They don't portray the actual house, and that's a whole other thing. But no, I've definitely, and then I've gone back to visit, and I'll say, I knew this was the house. Like, this was your house. I love that. I love that. I don't like when people are. I've definitely had people say, I like it, but I don't love it, or I don't know if I like it, but we're moving forward with it. Why? Why
Yeah.
would you do that?
Yeah. Well, not, yeah. I mean, there's factors, I mean, people have fear of not being able to find something better. People have fear of maybe they just have a time frame. They have to settle due to a time frame. I mean, not everybody even knows really what they want. I mean, I am one of those people, and I mean, you sold my brother and sister-in-law a house twice. And I mean, Emma, my sister-in-law, shout out Emma Wright, love you. She can look at a house after closing the car door and just see the thing that is not gonna fly, and just go, we don't even have to walk in the front door. Let's go to the next one. Whereas my brother is very much like, even if that's true, why don't we go look at the bathroom and see how the layout is? And it's just like, but why? Like the headspace of like, well, why even waste the time, waste the energy, whereas like, you talked about me about looking for houses. I can go in a house and be like, well, this bathroom's perfect. That other one needs to be gutted.
Yeah.
And I know how to do that. So I can use the perfectly working bathroom as one person who doesn't have kids, dog's wife, whatever you may have, while I spend 6 months very slowly, without any help, gutting and rebuilding a bath.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that time. Not everybody has, some people have kids. Not everybody has that budget. I mean, there's a gazillion factors.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you really are just like, how do I boil these people down and figure out really what they need?
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, you can't get taught that. You had to just learn that. You had to figure that out over a career of being a realtor.
Yeah. And also I just feel like, I don't know. I think I'm just so down to earth with people. They trust me. They listen to me. We talk about, I don't rush anyone. I don't say, look, you got to buy this house or, I'm not going to show you houses anymore. Agents do that.
Really?
Just so it's amazing. Yes. It's,
see, to me, I just find a new agent. The first time you did that to me, I'd be like, okay, have a great day.
And they do that. Yeah. And a lot of the agents, they'll say, they were just a nightmare to work with, or they were whatever. No, if you talk to them and you kind of understand what they're looking for, yes, there are nightmare buyers and sellers. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. I've
got nightmare clients. Sure,
boy, I've had my stories, but the bottom line is everyone's gonna sell and buy, and so unless they're mistreating you or something, why wouldn't you say, yes, I can go schedule to show you that house and such, and I don't know, people just, I think it's also because I enjoy what I do. If I didn't enjoy what I do, it could be a different situation.
I think that's, I think that's not realtor or even construction specific. I mean, if you enjoy what you do, it makes it a lot better.
Kind of changes things.
My dad has always said, and I don't even think it's his quote, but he has always said, like, I don't really go to work. Like, I do what I love every day and I get paid for it. But he's like, I don't really go to work. I haven't thought that I'm going to work since before I was born. And I was like, well, you, my dad, are not the norm. Most people get up and go to frickin' work and they do not like it.
And you know what? I feel terrible for those people because I do have friends. I know so many people that they hate to get up and go do their job, and they hate that. And to me,
in just life or in real estate?
No, in life, just in life. And I feel like I somehow just lucked out with going into a career that, like I said, I never wanted to watch a clock. I don't know Monday through, I know Monday through Monday. Like, it's kind of like your dad. When I get up in the morning, not one thing says to me, gosh, I got to get up and go to work. No, I just get up and start the day and do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like it.
So it's a combination of, enjoyment. That's a big one.
With
You've still got some all of life has headaches. There's no, if you want a life without headaches, you need to be plugged into the matrix.
You need to win the lottery and not have to work.
Those lottery people have headaches too. Don't even be fooled.
They do.
Don't be fooled by.
There's a curse I hear. That when people win
a
the
person's
lottery.
happy life is not actually what you see on 8 Instagram posts.
Exactly.
There's a real life behind all that, and it's just as happy and not happy and up and down as everybody else. There's no that's baloney.
I know. I know.
So so for you, it was a combination of enjoyment, finding out rather good. Obviously, some financial incentive doesn't hurt when you're getting paid for something. And then I guess, to boiling it down, if I could translate what I think you're saying, is you're a people person. You enjoy people. You like talking to them. You like meeting them. You like getting to know them. And it sounds like there's a legitimate satisfaction of like, well, I helped these people find their home, and then 10 years later, they had a kid and I found them another home, and then they had a second kid. I found them another, and just like, you get to be an integral part of other people's legitimate life stories through their homes.
There's a joke running in real estate where if real estate is in your blood, no matter how long you're doing it, every offer you present that gets accepted, there's a rush that. And I still get it. I still get it after all these offers, after all these contracts. And that's something that you can't say for a lot of things that you do.
Do you retire the day that goes away?
I don't know, but I know that when someone emails me and says, hey, this is what really gets me when people say, hey, you sold us a house about 7 years ago. I don't know if you remember me or not. I'm like, how would I not? Like, I remember
Like,
everyone.
hey, Jane, how are you? How's your dog Ben?
I
Like,
sold you a house, though. Like, I didn't sell
I have the
you.
folder in front of me. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't sell you a brush or something. Like,
Yeah.
I sold you a big house or a
Yeah.
whole house. Like, I'm not going to forget who you are. And it amazes me how many people say, do you have time to work with us?
I mean, look at
Are
us
you
right
freaking
here.
kidding me?
I mean, look at us right here. I mean, I barely knew you. You were my older brother's realtor, and I trust my older brother probably more than my parents. I hate to even say it. So when he said, use Stacy, I went, okay. I said, yes. Yeah. And I mean,
Keaton.
Keaton's shout out, Keaton, right?
Shout out.
The best.
They're both the best.
Yeah, Keaton. Yeah. I mean, they're fantastic. I mean, but I mean, the process. I mean, you dove in. I mean, we looked at. I remember that one day with Meg, you drove us around 20 houses in 100-degree heat. I mean, we were just like, nope, terrible. Nope, terrible. This is cool. Maybe, nope, terrible. And I mean, I hated the wall color in this kitchen. You gave me a little gift card to go buy some paint. And I mean, you've become, you've become a legitimate family friend. I mean, my mom comes to town and says, Stacy, when you want to get coffee?
Exactly.
And I mean, it's
love that.
beyond, can you sell us a house?
Right.
So, and here you are on my podcast. So, I mean,
I love it.
So it is that does surprise me because I guess they don't realize, buying a home for them is such a huge thing in their life, and they don't realize that just because you do it every day, it's still a big deal for you.
Yeah,
it's still a big deal.
It is. It just amazes me. And I always give a Christmas card. I didn't this past year, but I give a handwritten Christmas card, and I'm like, I don't want you to forget me. So the fact that they would think that I would forget them it blows me away. But I just got a text before I was coming here, and the guy said, and now I remember who he is, but he said, you showed me and my wife a house back in 2020, and we kept your card, and we remember what a great experience we had. We didn't buy the house, but we thought we'd remodel our house. Well, we've changed our mind. Can you show us this house? And I'm sitting there thinking, I saw him one time, and I do remember it now. And I'm thinking, that's awesome. You kept my card. And now you're calling me 2 years later. So the fact that I put an impression on them with one meeting. Yeah. See, that's
and also you showed up. You showed up is a big thing. I know maybe not so much in your industry, but in my industry, I mean, you're a homeowner. You need new gutters. You call 4 gutter guys.
Oh,
and 3 people just don't show up. They say we'll be there Friday at 9, and they just don't show up. They don't call and cancel. They just never. And then you call them back, and they don't answer. And it's like, what? Like
you're so confused.
So our industries are not the same, but they are intertwined. And I don't think any industry is above just strapping up your shoes and showing up. Showing up is half of it, Showing up, being 5 minutes early is just that's huge. That is how you start a meeting correctly.
Exactly. Yeah. My one and only person that always showed up was Kent.
R.I.P. I love Kent.
Yep.
Yeah.
That I'm spoiled because I can't find anyone. Like it is, I'll find someone one day. I mean,
well, you call me. I'll help you out.
I can call you, but you're busy too. Like
I'm never too busy for you, Stacy.
Okay,
just give me a text.
Well, I guess I was thinking more on the lines of I've known Kent like for way back.
I mean, when you put me in touch with Kent, I mean, I couldn't even begin to start counting how many times that he has come to my aid. One very specific, tiny little quick story. In my younger starting off years, I didn't know how to do crown molding. It's very hard to do. Mm-hmm. And I took on this project. It was a bathroom renovation. And yes, I can do a bathroom renovation with my eyes closed, but this one piece of crown molding trim, and I literally mean one piece. Mm-hmm. I was just like, I I can't. And after wasting a piece, I was like, all right, I'm going to go buy one more piece, and I'm going to call Kent. I was like, Kent, I've got a miter saw set up. I've got everything. I just need your brain. And he was like, be there in an hour or whatever. Let me go buy a tube of caulk just for the cracks. I was like, okay. And he does it. I'm watching him. I'm not even helping. I'm staring at him. 45 minutes. He's done. Boom, boom. Tack, tack, tack. Nail, nail, nail. Done. And I'm like, cool. Can I give you $100? And he laughed. He went, are you kidding me, dude? I was not doing anything. You needed a hand. Your buddy of mine, you're trying to get, he's like, just, when I call you for a similar favor, be there. And I was like, man, you could have called me anyway. It's just kind of how that works. Yeah. And it was, but that was just who Kent was. I mean, salt of the earth. No one just wanted to help you out. And I hired him to do big jobs I couldn't do when I needed him. Yeah. But he was more just quite the jack of all, master of none, but could really get it all done. So
absolutely. And that's in our business, we need that. It's not just contracting, it's everything. Yeah. It's just but you hit it. You said it just right. Like, no one will show up. 4 people, 1 might show up. 1.
Yeah, maybe.
Constantly in my office, we have our own inner, messaging, I guess. Right. And it's like someone will refer someone, and then they'll say, "Oh, they didn't call, or they didn't show up, or they didn't whatever." And it's I couldn't imagine being a realtor not showing up and not doing. If this is your livelihood, don't care how busy you are. The worst thing you can say to someone is, if you don't get back to them, I'm sorry, I got busy. That is the one thing I can't handle hearing, because I get busy too. But if you call me on that second time, if I've somehow missed you the first time, I will not forget you the second time. And I'll say, don't forget to text me if for some reason you didn't hear me or something. Some people just let it go and they think, oh, you know what, it's gone too long, so I'm not even going to call them back.
Well, you and I are on a similar level of organization where a text comes in, you make an appointment back and forth, and you open your calendar and save it. I mean, it's just like the way you work. Or, I just opened my calendar. I can't do that. How about the next day? Right. Whereas somebody will just say, yeah, sure, and they won't show, or they'll go to the bigger job or whatever. And it's like, well, man, I only had a $300 job this time, but did you realize I own 11 houses, and I could have hired you for the rest of my life in this state? Yeah. Like so, or for you, like if you don't show up to sell one relatively unimpressive house, and it turns out that dude's an investor, and based on that experience, he wants you to sell 14 other houses. I mean, that could have made your year.
That's happened so many times. I would get referrals from an agent that he would always get calls on downtown Durham. Back when they were like 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. So they were crap, right? I would meet them. I would sell them whatever I found. And then down the road, oh, hey, my sister's looking for a $400,000 house. And hey, not only that, but I've built relationships with all these people.
I mean, there is no other realtor I give number for that isn't yours. Everyone's like, I need a realtor, Stacy. And I have other realty. I mean, you know them. I got nothing against Adam Dickinson, but we just haven't built that relationship. Right. Well, to be fair to Adam, he's in another tax bracket of housing selling usually that's not in my zone. He's in the $1 million zone.
I guess.
I'm just not in that zone. But like, I got nothing against him. He's a good dude and throws these great events. I've gotten tacos at his customer appreciation thing. Found my parents' house kind of through some weird dealings or whatever. So, it's not necessarily a negative connotation, but you're in the relationship building business, and we've built an amazing relationship. So why would I not recommend you when a friend of mine goes, I know what you do for a living. Do you have a plumber? Yes. Do you have a realtor? Of course. Right. And so first time home buyer, just to recap, number 1, start with finances. Yeah. Number 2, you've got to trust your realtor. And if you don't trust your realtor, I mean, you've got to figure out why and find a realtor you trust. And then once you have that trusted realtor, obviously don't listen to anybody blindly, but you've got to have some faith that they actually care about your interests a little
Yeah.
bit more than just a commission.
Mhm.
And anything else you might recommend to a first-time home buyer?
No, just listen to what your advisor is saying, because we have a lot of information that we're going to give you. We're going to pour it out. It could be overwhelming, but just remember, we're telling you because you need to know a lot of things when it
Gotcha.
comes to buying a house.
And one thing that I'm going to add to the recommendation for a first-time home buyer, and this is specifically when you are touring a home. When you go in to tour your home, go left, but the next time go right. Tour it a different way. Look at the rooms in a different order.
Yeah.
Try to see it from a different angle. You know, when you walk in and you're blown away by the living room, and then you walk into the kitchen, the next time go right up the steps and look at something else, and then see the living room from the steps, and just get another perspective that can maybe show you things that your excitement blinded you the first time.
Second showings are a real thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I believe in second showings.
Yeah.
And I also know that people walk in that first time and fall in love. Then they walk in that second time, either fall in love again or not so much.
Right.
It has happened, back and forth.
Because you've got to push through that like initial excitement
Yep.
and adrenaline and be like, okay, the excitement and adrenaline is going to go away day 2 you move in for the rest of your life. So you got to look at this house without some excitement and adrenaline.
Right.
Don't get all hopped up on sugar soda.
Yeah.
Go look at a house.
Right.
So the last thing, if you've still got some time, the last thing I'd love to talk about, technically, as we record this, I have no listeners yet, but somebody who is interested in my podcast and was a guest and heard that I was having a big time real estate agent on, was like, I want you to ask her about market changes over just in Durham, because he was kind of talking about his purchasing of his 4 houses over his life, and how, one house was 80 grand. And then next thing you know, it's 400 grand. And then next thing you know, he's seeing townhomes built across the street from his apartment that are selling for 600 grand. He's just like, what is going on? And he's, at one point he was waiting for the bubble to burst, and guess what? We're still waiting for that bubble to burst. And this story he was telling was 4 years ago. So, obviously you don't get to just say, well, the market's changing, let's wait. You have to keep eating, and people are always buying, always selling. People are always moving. You live in the RDU area, which is the growth rate of people here is massive.
Yep.
So if you could just kind of, your thoughts on your experiences of market change. I mean, 20 years ago must drastically different than what it looks like today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
20 years ago, the houses that I was selling for under 100,000 are now in the 3, 4, 500,000, which I'm still blown away.
Right.
Every day I look at numbers for clients and think, how has this happened? But I will say 2007-8 was foreclosure season. Everyone went belly up. New construction went completely bust. But somehow in our area, because of schools, Research Triangle Park, universities, we have managed to stay at
and the hospitals. We're just throwing in all the things that attract people here, like the Duke and UNC.
Duke is huge.
People come from all over the world to
I
live
shouldn't
and work
say
here.
just Duke, but UNC. You're
Yeah,
right.
UNC
You're right.
is big.
Rex is amazing. And so it is a lot of just what we have here versus a lot of other areas in the country. They don't have anything. So they tanked and they went downhill. Well, then 2 years ago, we have a pandemic, right? And we think everything's going to shut down. And the housing is one of the only things that didn't shut down.
So pandemic hits, and I remember that whole essential versus non-essential bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm a construction person, and I'm deemed essential. And I'm thinking to myself, as I am in the middle of summer replacing a dude's fireplace, a gas fireplace, I am just like, this is the opposite of essential. None of this matters.
Right,
There's no
right.
way. Now my plumber who's getting calls to replace broken, not working hot water
Of course,
heaters.
yeah.
Okay, you could make an argument that I would like to find the person who's against it to say he's non-essential.
Right,
But,
right.
you know, I don't know necessarily, and this is no disrespect to you or anybody in your field, but I don't know if buying and selling homes is essential.
The only reason it was, in my opinion, I had a lot of people relocating because of jobs, and
Okay.
they had to be here.
Can't argue
okay?
against that. That's, yeah.
So that is, but I'll tell you where it became non-essential, but it was essential. People living in their houses together for less than a few months and saying we need more space. Like they couldn't live together because
okay.
they're so used to being out in the work field.
So the family that now is trapped in a house
Yeah.
where the mom went to work, the dad went to work, the kids went to school or camp or whatever.
They're
Now they're all in the
here.
home, and they realize that they hate each other and it's too cramped and they need a bigger house. They don't actually hate each other.
I
I'm
had a
just
lot of
joking.
people like that though.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that was going to happen, but it teaches you, you know, not everyone adjusts to their lifestyle, right? And
Yeah.
the majority of your life is going to be working, school, kids going, moving out, whatever. And when you're confined, makes a big difference. And so,
See,
yeah,
I wasn't
that
confined.
was
I wasn't confined for one day. I was
Me
essential from
either.
day one, and I
Me
was also
either.
like, you know, a tad bit about me. Like, yeah, you can hire me as a general contractor, but for the most part, my business partners and I buy a house, and for 8 months to a year, we're gutting and fixing that house. So I still had the house I was working
Yep,
on, and
yep.
my plumber, I was like, hey man, we're just gonna not have as many, you know, face-to-face conversations. I'm gonna text you, you're gonna call me from
Yeah.
the site, you're gonna tell me it's done, you're gonna lock the house, I'm gonna go there the next day so we don't actually breathe on each other. Lockbox
Right.
is in the keys in the lockbox, and you know, same thing with the electrician, roofer, you name it. And so I just kind of kept the job rolling. Things obviously slowed, parts and other materials
Yeah.
prices changed and availability changed, but for the most part, I mean, the road traffic went away and I started getting groceries delivered. But for me specifically, I was
Yeah.
still working.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yep.
was-
Me too.
yeah.
I never had a day off. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm done. This is it. I'm going to stay in the house now from now on. What am I going to do? I didn't even know what I was going to do. I didn't have an option to even think about that.
Right.
I was getting phone calls. Can you videotape? We're moving to work at wherever, and we need to be there. And we had planned to be there, and so I probably from March to June, the majority was relocation.
Right.
So
And now here you are. I don't want to necessarily say post pandemic, but this is not a political show, so I could say whatever I want. But post the
But-
craziness that we went through, did it go back to pre pandemic? Has it just did it kept speeding up?
No, the crazy thing is, oh yeah, 2020 was my best year. How in the world did that happen? Like during a pandemic, that was,
Yeah.
I don't want to say it was my best year, but it was one of the best years. And then 2021, all of a sudden the numbers just started climbing. Like what happened with that? So to go to the market change and where it's at now and where it was, the appreciation just skyrocketed, and we started having builders build more, do more downtown. Downtown's growth is amazing. I mean, it's just.
I feel like that's a whole podcast episode on
It
just the
is.
growth of Durham's
It
downtown
is.
scene
Yeah.
from thriving to basically boarded up before I moved here to now thriving times two.
Yeah,
And I mean,
yeah.
new Bulls Stadium,
It's
new
amazing.
apartments. I mean, Magnum 501 apartment building is stunning. I mean, it's very cool.
Beautiful. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so much downtown now. And yeah, so the change is now we've got housing that is higher priced. Unfortunately, that's also not helping the people that had rents that have now skyrocketed. Where are they going? I do believe that a lot of people are now moving in with their families because they can't afford to have separate places to live. And I don't know how that's going to be mentally down the road for people, but I don't like seeing that part. But I do like the growth with where we're at in today's world. I don't want it to go any higher, though. If it could just stay at a steady pace, well, I don't know.
No, it's gonna keep going. That's why I
buyers,
laughed. Yeah,
I know that. I
it's
feel like how could I sell
that's
that
like
house?
telling a company like, you don't have to make any more money. We made 100 million last year. We could just make 100 million next year. And they're like, no. We got to make 111 million. We got to fire somebody and have the shares go up. And it's like, but do we? But do we really? Nobody thinks like that.
I know, but you know what I hate to see is that these prices go doubling. Okay, on what you're going to spend on a house. The interest rates are now hiking up. So they're not going to be able to afford it and feel comfortable. I don't know. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of house poor people. And I don't like the thought of that.
Yeah, I feel like that term house poor, I feel like there were already. I mean, I have a lot of friends who choose that, honestly. They specifically choose that. They're like, well, the only way to have the house that we want is to be house poor. And then I'm like, okay, well, you also don't need 4 cars for the 2 of you. And they're like, well, it's only this much a month. And I'm like, well, that a month and that a month and that a month and that a month. And they're like, do you save any money? Like, we don't save 1 cent. And I'm like, I am not you. It's your life. But to me, that's insane. Yeah. Like, I just don't have that, and everybody's got a completely different mentality and mindset from everybody else.
Oh,
and
yeah, of course.
My life's not perfect enough to judge anybody. So, we'll leave that there. But the house poor thing is definitely, that's a real thing. And I guess just because I like to do it, a little explanation. If you don't know what house poor means, that basically means most, if not all, of your income goes to your rent and or mortgage, and you have no money to have fun, go out, or put into savings, which you should be doing.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, about an hour and a half in, this was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stacy, thank you so much. I know we had some technical difficulties last time. Thank you so much for coming back a second time.
Yes.
And
I enjoy this. I could talk all day long.
Well, hopefully we'll come up with some cool new topics, and we'll have you back on. I'd love to have you back.
That'd be great.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.